I'm in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. 1 Corinthians chapter 9. Paul is writing to the Corinthians in chapter 9, expecting that there will be some of the people there who are not going to like what he has to say. And so he writes a few things in expectation that there will be some negative feedback. And he anticipates, in a sense, how that negative feedback might be directed towards him. At the beginning of chapter 9, he says, "Am I not an apostle? Am I not free? Have I not seen Jesus Christ our Lord? Are you not my work in the Lord?" He is effectively stating to them, or asking the question, who am I? I explained this in the previous message. If I am not an apostle to others, yet doubtless I am to you. All right, who am I? Well, I am an apostle to you. That's doubtless. Of course, that's evident. I am to you, for you are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord. My defense, verse 3, my defense to those who examine me is this. And I was explaining in the previous message what would motivate a person to relate to him that way, that they're going to examine him, put him on the defensive. Why would they do that? People do that when they don't agree with what you have to say. All right, so there was an expectation that there would be some people who would not agree with what Paul has to say, and as a result, they're going to examine him. They've got to find something wrong with him so that they can exaggerate that instead of just look over that. They'll probably find something, but whatever they find, they're either going to exaggerate it or they're going to overlook it. But if they're looking for something to use against him, then it's something that they're going to exaggerate in order to distract a person from what he has to say, or in order to reject what Paul has to say. So they don't like what he has to say, so they'll find something about him they don't like. They'll exaggerate that and say, look at that, look at that, look at that. And in that way, then they have a solution to what they don't like, to get rid of that. Or if they could find something that he's doing that they feel is just not right, that he shouldn't be doing that. And so he mentions a few things from there in verse 4. Do we have no right to eat and drink? As if that's going to be something that they might try to point out as, well, look at them. They're maybe eating food that was offered to an idol in some way. That somebody gave thanks to a false god for the existence of the food, and Paul ate some of it. Well, there you go. Or he drank something that was offered to an idol, or maybe he drank alcohol, something like that. We're going to use that against him. They would overlook it if they agreed with what he had to say, but they're not going to overlook it. They're going to exaggerate it if they do not agree with what he has to say. As if they're the ones who give him permission to eat or drink or do whatever, as if they're the ones who give him permission, as if he is not free. And that just simply is not the relationship that he has with these people. And so it's a way of asking the question, and then who are you? Paul can ask, well, who am I? This is who I am. And now, who are you to be relating to him in this manner? Verse 5, do we have no right to take along a believing wife, as do also the other apostles, the brothers of the Lord and Cephas? Or is it only Barnabas and I who have no right to refrain from working? And who would decide that? All right, he's giving them the opportunity to see that it's probably them who will assert that they have no right to refrain from working. And how would they do that? They would complain, or they would criticize that Paul is not working as much as he ought to. He's not doing as much as he should, as much as he can, as if he has no right to cease from working, to rest, to maybe do something for himself. No, he can't be doing that. This is the kind of response that Paul is expecting to get from some of the people there. That this is how they're going to respond to what he has to say. They're going to look for whatever they can find that they can use against him, and this might be one of those things. That Paul might, and Barnabas, they might do something for themselves. Because when you're working, that generally means you are doing something for somebody else. That's what that usually means. Now, also consider the fact that Paul and Barnabas were working outside of the ministry. That's how they survived. They survived by doing work outside of the ministry, unrelated to the ministry, so that they can do work in the ministry. When do they ever stop working? All right, and so there is an expectation that people will have that if you're in the ministry, or that Paul and Barnabas were in the ministry, there's this expectation that they should never cease from working. Never cease from working. That's the way that people will relate to others. Now, his response to this is coming. So he expects them to respond to what he has to say. He is giving his response to what they will have to say, that he expects them. And then he's following up with that even more. Now keep in mind that Paul and Barnabas are doing this work on their own, and these people in Corinth are not helping them. They are not helping them do the work that they are doing. If they were at least doing that, then they might have some leverage of some kind, because they could say they would stop helping Paul and Barnabas do work. They could do that. They could say, Paul, we don't like what you have to say, so we're going to stop helping you do this work. And that's perfectly fine. That should be allowed. Nothing wrong with that at all. But they don't even have that. They don't have that kind of leverage with Paul. And so, in effect, what he is presenting to the Corinthians is a statement such as, listen, I am telling you what I sincerely believe, and you think that you have some importance here with regards to judging me or examining me, when you don't even help me do the work that I'm doing. I'm doing work for you. You're not helping me with that. I mean, is this what your help is? Your criticism? Your complaints? Your rejection? As if that somehow is contributing in some way? So effectively what he says to those who may oppose him is, listen, you folks don't even help me do this. And so why would you even complain or criticize or judge or examine what it is that I'm doing? I mean, what really is it to you? What is it to you really? All right? Now listen, I understand this. I understand this really well. I have done a lot of work outside of the ministry. And when I was doing a lot of work outside of the ministry and also doing the ministry, and then there were times when I was just doing work in the ministry, and then I have to move back into a phase of doing work outside as well as inside, just because of the obligations of life, to be able to sustain life. That this is just how it can go. Now, I know a lot of people who work in the ministry and they just do 30 to 40 hours a week, and they get paid by whatever organization they're working for, and then they leave work and they go do things for themselves. And I think that's perfectly fine. But I have never encountered that myself ever at all. I've never been able to live that way. It's just been one relentless moment after moment, day after day, just working nonstop, doing something for somebody else. And I have sacrificed a lot for decades just doing something for somebody else, working outside of the ministry for somebody else, doing work inside the ministry for others. I know what this is, and I know what it is to do this work, and the overwhelming majority of the people who I am doing work for, they do not help me work. They just don't. But I'll tell you what they think they are doing. There's a lot of people who really believe that they are helping me work by listening to what I have to say. All right? If they're viewing this video, for example, they really think that by viewing this video, they're helping me. And that is an absolute distortion of reality. Watching this video does not help me do any work at all. It just doesn't. It has nothing to do with whether or not I can work, all right, or supporting my ability to work. People do that with the radio ministry as well, the audiophiles. They really believe that their contribution, what they do to be a part of the ministry, is that they listen to the audio files on the website, or they listen to the radio program being broadcasted on the radio stations. And that just does not help me at all. It just doesn't. If I was to describe the number of people who help me actually do work, and the way that that's done is through donations. Okay? They do work, and part of what they earn through their work, they share with me, and that is what makes it possible for me to do work. And what is the percentage of people who listen to the radio programs of Living God Ministries? What is the percentage of people that listen to the program and also make it possible for me to do the work associated with that? What is the percentage of people? How would we describe the number of people? Is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it 1%? What is that percentage? And I will tell you that in order to describe the percentage, I have to use scientific notation, which means that it's going to be in the category, for those of you who are not very familiar with mathematics, it's going to be described with something that looks like 10 to the minus. Okay? That's what it takes. And for the video, it's pretty close to being about the same. As far as how many people are viewing it, you've got to, who are also donating to make it possible for me to do the work. It requires scientific notation in order to describe that effectively. Okay? That's just the way it is. Now, fortunately, there has been enough for me to be able to do this. But in order to do this, I've had to work relentlessly, not ceasing from working for all of these years. And it really has been a tremendous sacrifice on my part. When I'm not doing this, if I am doing other things, which I do, I'm doing something for somebody else, either another kind of work, or I've been raising children. And even then, I'm doing something for somebody else. Okay? I mean, no matter how you look at it. And that has been a choice that I have made in order to accomplish what I have accomplished. That is the choice that I have made, and I am thankful for what I have been able to do. But this is not going to be what the future looks like for me. It just isn't going to continue like this. Things are going to have to change because, I cannot just put myself into a scenario where I could suffer badly from just not being able to take care of myself. And those are the decisions that just simply have to be made. All right, but this is a way that I can describe what Paul is describing here in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. This is a way that I can describe, that I can relate to this, that I understand it. I'm trying to put it in the context. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty in some way and start helping me actually do work. Although if you would, by all means, I don't want to discourage that. And if you want to help me out, just contact me. This is not hard to figure out how to do that, and ask and let me know, and just do that. All right. I've noticed that whenever I ask, nobody responds, and so what's the point of asking anymore? Doesn't make any sense for me to even ask for any help. But I'll state the reality of how things have always been and how they still are in the context of what Paul presents here, because this is a big deal, and I want you to understand what he is dealing with. All right, and this is I deal with this. You can understand this, and what he would be communicating to these people by saying, "Look, you don't help me do what I'm doing anyway. So if you've got a problem with it, then keep it to yourself." What are you doing? Examining Paul, judging Paul. Who are you? Keep it to yourself. Go do something else. Don't listen. So be it. But to think otherwise just doesn't have any meaning. It just doesn't have any relevance. All right, so in verse 6, or is it only Barnabas and I who have no right to refrain from working? I mean, this is how distorted people's views get. As if, well, Paul, Barnabas, they have no right to cease from working. When these people don't even help them do it at all anyway. Okay, so this is a big thing to understand. All right, now continuing into verse 7 just a little bit. Whoever goes to war at his own expense, who plants a vineyard and does not eat of its fruit, or who tends a flock and does not drink of the milk of the flock. You see, this is where he goes. He gives some examples. He's preparing them for what he's about to say concerning this. He gives a few examples of real life situations, real life circumstances where this is what it takes in order to accomplish the tasks at hand. All right, so I can certainly relate to this very well, and I just wanted to spend a little bit more time explaining that this really is the way that people can be, and that this is a real struggle and a real dynamic within the work of the ministry. For example, presently at the time when I'm recording this, I'm going to put this up at a particular time, at an expected time, on a certain day of the week, sort of thing. And what would happen if just today I just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm done. I'm finished. I've done enough. I'm tired, and I really can't afford this anymore, because I have to deal with things like, how am I going to possibly retire? For example, what happens if I just cannot do this kind of work anymore? That's called retiring. Okay, if you physically can't do it, how can I even do that? I mean, how am I going to make a living? How am I going to continue to survive? I could look at questions like that, and then I just decide, I'm just not going to do this anymore. Then what do you think would happen if all of a sudden something wasn't made available, or I just sort of disappeared in many respects? What kind of complaints do you think I would get from people who would be saying, where's the video? Where is it? Where's the new radio programs? Hey, where's this? Where's that? Who do you think you are? All right. You bet I'd get a lot of that, okay? Because that's just the way that people, they see me, and the way that they see people who are doing work in the ministry, and it's really unfair in a lot of ways. So when you look at what Paul is doing, all right, when you look at what he's doing and how much he is sacrificing and how much he's giving up, what he could be doing otherwise. And all of this is for somebody else. I mean, is this really for him per se? In some ways you can find that. All right. For me, I do this, and I do it for me in certain ways. The Lord asked me to help him with this. I'm doing it. So I do esteem some personal value for this, in the sense that I do appreciate the opportunity and the privilege to do something for my God, and that I can tell people what he has shared with me. And so it's not as though it's not something that that I or Paul or anybody else would not want to do. It's not really in that category. But I want you to see that considering how much that Paul has given and how much that he has done for other people, to get this kind of feedback from them can really be an opportunity for everybody to really understand just what this relationship is. What really is the relationship between Paul and the Corinthians? What is it really? And so when he shows up one day and they see him, are they going to have any degree of respect for him for what he's done? Or are they still going to be criticizing him, evaluating him, judging him? What is that relationship really going to be about in consideration with the way things really are? Now he follows up, and he's gonna, and that's what's gonna happen in the rest of this chapter. He's gonna speak to them about the fact that they don't help him do this work, and this isn't about trying to put them to shame, and so maybe they'll start doing that. That's not his purpose or his intent. It's a way of saying, listen, if you've got something to say about what it is that I'm doing, why don't you just keep it to yourself? Because I really don't care. And even if you were supporting the work that is being done, even if you were, that still wouldn't be usable as a form of blackmail or extortion to threaten to take away from it either. That's not how that's going to work either. Although there are always going to be some people who try to use that in one way or another, just because that's the natural way that people relate to one another. But I'm going to pause here because I want you to think about what Paul was really going through, especially with his Corinthians, and how much he has put into their lives from his own, what he could have been doing otherwise. To really think about that in the context of the letter that he's writing to them, and the way that they're behaving, and why he would put himself into a defensive posture. For him to say, my defense is this. I mean, why would he even have to defend himself from the expected rejection that's coming upon him next? All right, so I'm going to pause here, and I'll continue into the rest of the chapter in the next message. But for those of you who are using this for small groups, I got a question for you. Who is it that you are helping to do work? It doesn't have to be me, but who is it? I mean, who are you helping to do work of the ministry? And if you're not helping anybody, fine. Are you doing anything? I mean, there has to be something done for there to be progress, in a sense. But who are you helping? And if you're not, then who might you help in the future? And is this something that's important to you or not? Or are you really going to be a person who just simply says, I just exist for other people to do things for me, and that's it. That's who I am. I'm the one that people work for. or are you going to help others do work? And I know it's kind of a tough, a tough question, and could be uncomfortable, but that's the context of the chapter. So have a discussion about it, and I'll continue in the next message. Thanks.